Hey guys, it's Crystal again. This is the second video in like 2 days. Good for me and good for you because actually a lot of people like my videos, so I'm kind of shocked by that, but hey, I'll take it as a compliment. So the tag that I'm going to be doing today is the first and last tag, and that was originally created by Kimberly's Book Nook. Yeah, Kimberly's Book Nook, I said that right. And here are the questions. The first question is, what was the first video you ever posted, and what was the last video you ever posted? The first video I ever posted was actually, at that time, it was my boyfriend, and it was a video of him twerking on Skype. But the first book-related video that I ever posted was my BookTube introduction video. The last video that I posted was Friday Reads. The second question is, who was the first booktuber you ever watched, and who was the last booktuber you watched, and what was their video? The first booktuber that I ever watched was Poland Bananas Books, and I think that one was actually on the Mortal Instruments. My friend had showed me her channel, and I just kind of like went out and I watched a lot of her book reviews, and I heard that she was a huge fan of the Mortal Instruments, so I'm like, yeah, we already had that in common. And the last booktuber that I watched was X Obsessed Reader X, and it was just her latest book haul. The first book, number 3, is the what was the first book you remember buying, and what was the last book that you bought? I don't remember the first book that I ever bought because I don't know if I ever bought a lot of the books that I had when I was younger, or my mom did, so I don't really know the answer to that question. But the last book that I ever bought was actually more than one, because I bought them at the same time, so I don't really know which one I should count first, so I'm just going to show you them both. But it was Pretties by Scott Westerfield and Shadow Me by Tahara Muffy. Number 4 is, what is the first novel you remember reading all by yourself, and what was the last novel you ever read, or that you read last? Yeah, that. The first novel that I don't really remember reading any novels when I was like novels, like thick books like that, but I do remember reading all the Magic Treehouse series that was out when I was like 3rd grade or so. And then the other series that I remember completely finishing, because I got it in like one of those nice little box sets, was A to Z Mysteries. I don't know if any of you guys remember those, but I really, really, really liked both of those series, like so much. I carried them around with me everywhere, and I read both of those series about 2 or 3 times each. And the last novel that I read was Zombie, but however, I am currently reading Die For Me, which is right here. So, currently reading Die For Me. The next question, number 5, is, what was the first dystopian novel you have ever read? And what was the last dystopian you had ever read? The first and last dystopian that I ever read was probably the Ugly series, and now I'm currently reading Pretties, but it's still kind of out of the same thing. Quite honestly, I didn't know what a dystopian novel was until I looked up and I found out what it was. But no, actually that wouldn't be right, because the first dystopian novel that I read was The Hunger Games, but I didn't complete it. So I guess the first dystopian novel that I read and completed would be The Uglies, and then the last one that I read part of the way is Pretties. Number 6. That's 6, right? Yeah, 6. What was the first paranormal romance you ever read, and what was the last paranormal romance you ever had? I don't really know what would be considered paranormal romance from the books that I read, like, before I started getting back into reading majorly again. So I guess the first one that I would have to read since I've gotten back into reading, even though it's not like the direct story line, like the direct characters are like paranormal, so to speak, there are other relationships that are paranormal. So that would be City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, and this is my copy of City of Bones, and as you can tell, it's kind of beat up and getting all messed up, so I really could use a new copy, but I don't really care, because that just shows how much I love this book and how much wear and tear it's had shows how much I care for it. Kind of an oxymoron. But it shows how much I've read it, and I put time and love, and just this book is very, very close to my heart. But anyways, and then the last book that I read was Die For Me, and I'm sorry, this is currently what I'm reading, so it happens to be coming out a lot. So, Die For Me, again, by Amy Plum. What was the first book that made you cry, and the last book that made you cry? I honestly don't remember the first book, like, ever that made me cry, but, so, like I said, I'm just going from one I've recently started getting into reading, and that would be Clockwork Princess on both attempts. The first book recently that I've read that made me cry, and the last book that recently that I read that made me cry. The ending of this book is just so emotional and so heartbreaking. I couldn't do it, and I broke down, and I was really disappointed in myself, but I was so upset. What was the first entire series that you completed, and what was the last entire series that you completed? I guess the first entire series that I completed would be the A to Z mysteries. Like I said, when I was younger, and I read all A to Z mystery, all the letters A to Z mysteries, and they were like, A is for apple, who stole the apple, like that kind of stuff. But it was like 3rd grade reading level, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd grade reading level maybe. And the last series that I completed was the Infernal Devices series. Technically I like recompleted the series, but this was the last complete series that I read. So the next question, sorry, that question was number 8. The next question, number 9, what was the first book that you couldn't push yourself to finish, and what was the last book that you couldn't push yourself to finish? The very first book that I couldn't push myself to finish was The Hunger Games. Might get a lot of hate for that, but I could not stand that book, and I couldn't focus, and like after Rue died, I got about halfway through it, I got right there, I'm just like, this is ridiculous, and it's stupid, and I just kind of stopped reading it. However, I really, really like the movies. Don't know. But, that was the first book that I couldn't finish. And then, the most recent book that I couldn't finish was Passion by Lauren Kate. And I was reading that with one of my friends, and she was reading it faster than me because she just wanted to get it over with. And then she kind of ruined some stuff for me. So I'm like, I don't want to read this anymore. So maybe I'll pick that Fallen series up again later on. But for now, it's down, and I'm not picking it up for a while. Another book that I kind of might get some hate for that I haven't finished reading is Crescendo by Becca Fitzpatrick. Said that right. And that's in the Hush Hush series, but I didn't really like that one either, and I couldn't push myself to finish it. But anyways, so there you go. Number 10, and the final question is, who is the first person you will tag, and who is the last person you will tag? The first person I tag is Nerdy Book Lover, and she's really awesome, and you should go and check her out, and I'm putting her little link in the description box. And the last person that I tag is Kayla Talks Books, and she is also very awesome, so go and check her out if you haven't yet, and I will also put her little linky-dink in the description bar. Okay, anyways, I love you guys. Bye.